Governor appointed, lots of businessmen on it, heads of all the major agencies, and one academic, me. I worked with Ross Gattell on developing the analysis for this graph. On the bottom, what you see are millions tons of carbon dioxide equivalent avoided emissions on the x-axis, and what you see on the y-axis are economic benefits, which is the savings minus the costs. So we've investigated a whole range of strategies that came out of the working groups on changes in agriculture and forestry, on electricity generation, on buildings, and on transportation. Ross did the economic analysis, we did the CO2 analysis. This is in specific for the year 2025. So these are economic benefits of 2025. If we focus on buildings, which are in purple here, you can see that if we increase the efficiency of all the existing housing stock by 60%, right? So we switch out 30,000 homes per year, we make them 60% more efficient. We can do that with technology today. Not only will we reduce greenhouse gas emissions on the order of 3.5 million tons of carbon dioxide equivalent per year, in the year 2025, in that single year, we will save the New Hampshire economy $1.6 billion. Right? C&I, 50%, commercial and industrial buildings, we improve the existing stock of commercial industrial buildings by 50%. 50% less energy. New buildings use 70% less energy than the average building does today. We improve the thermal code. We actually have buildings comply with the existing code. Everyone reduces carbon dioxide and saves the state money. Billions and billions of dollars. I feel like Carl Sagan here. If we look at transportation, if we enforce speed limits, that's the diamond down here on the left-hand side. If we just enforce speed limits on our interstate highways, we would save on the order of 0.2 million tons of carbon dioxide and about $100 million a year. If we lower the speed limits and enforce them, we do even better. And if we develop low-carbon fuels, you can see we wouldn't save as much money, but we'd save a lot of carbon dioxide. The Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative, now passed. Right? We're going to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions by 2.7 million metric tons. And in 2025, despite what you read in the Union Leader, it's actually going to be good for our economy because we'll be spending our energy dollars, more of our energy dollars, in the state. And then finally, if we promote durable wood products from our forest, from sustainable harvest, we'll actually reduce it at 500,000 ton of carbon dioxide, and we'll make some money at the same time. So that's the point I want to leave you with, which I think is where the discussion is actually moving, is that the reason that we need to talk about climate change is the solutions to climate change are going to be good for our economy in the long run. They're going to require initial investment, but they're going to be really good down the road, primarily because we close the energy loop and we spend more of our energy dollar in our own economy.
Next speaker is Nancy Hirshberg. You may recognize the last name. Nancy is Vice President of Natural Resources for Stonyfield Farm, the world's leading organic yogurt producer based right here in New Hampshire. Nancy has worked at the nexus of food business and the environment for nearly 2 decades now, emerging as one of the field's leaders. Since 1991, she's been at the helm of Stonyfield Farm's efforts to improve its environmental performance and reduce its ecological footprint. Nancy has served on numerous boards, including the American Farmland Trust and Vice President of the Organic Trade Association. She's also the sister of the CEO of Stonyfield, Gary Hirshberg. She has also served as a consultant on environmental and organic issues for such entities as Seventh Generation, Hewlett-Packard, and MyOrganic.com. And when she's not busy doing all of those things, she's very busy serving as chair of the Wolfboro Town Energy Committee. She knows of which she speaks. Ladies and gentlemen, Nancy Hirshberg.
It's great to be here. I was going to start with some really chilling stuff I pulled out of my emails from the past couple of months, but as usual, Cameron did a fabulous job of freaking you out. So I'm not going to go there where it's critical, it's crisis. And of course, why we haven't turned this into enough action is really the question we're going to address tonight. I've been asked to give the business perspective on this as a business person, and I'm going to briefly touch on that only because I think most of the stuff is so intuitive at this point that you probably know it all. But the Chinese character for crisis is risk and opportunity, I think. I couldn't find the book that had that, but I'm pretty sure it is. So what I'm going to just talk about is not only the risk for business, but also the opportunity. And some of it is so obvious. There's the stuff that Cameron just showed about energy efficiency. You use less energy. It's good for the environment. It saves you money and so forth. It's just really a no-brainer. Some of the examples of the other ways that it's good for business to use less energy, generate less greenhouse gas emissions. Employee recruitment and retention. I think I saw a statistic that it costs about $80,000 to replace a manager. And when you have people who stay there longer because they're happy that they're working for a company that's doing these type of things, it has a huge economic benefit. Customers. You're all going to like roll your eyes and stuff, but when Walmart, the biggest single customer in the entire globe, comes out and says, we are going to give you preferential treatment if you have a sustainability story, if you've lowered your carbon footprint, I can tell you it has been profound for our business. They are driving the business community, whether you want to believe it or not. I recently went to Walmart for my first time. It's truly, and I'm not saying there are other issues with Walmart and so forth, but it has been profound, the effect that they have had. And they're coming very much from a religious place, honestly, the moral imperative that they have to do this. The third is consumers. Zillions of studies I could quote for you on how when price and quality are equal, consumers will choose a company that has better environmental performance. The other key thing is the risk. A lot of risk. The risk, we know that carbon's going to be regulated. We know that whether it's a carbon tax or cap and trade or whatever, there's going to be a cost to carbon. And it's just a matter of how fast and how good a program we put in place. So there's a cost, and when you start adding that cost in, it starts making the equation look a lot better to, especially if you're looking out farther when the cost is going to become greater and greater, to make some changes there. Some of you may be familiar with the Stern Review on the economics of climate change from a couple of years ago. The cost, what they determined was the cost to act, which sounds enormous, is 1% of global GDP. But the cost of inaction is 5 to 20% of GDP. And when you think of those numbers, 20% of GDP to respond to those charts that you just saw there, it's mind-boggling. The other one I just want to share with you briefly is about the opportunity to be an energy innovator right now. Who do you think is the biggest solar PV manufacturer in the world? What country?
Japan.
It's China and Germany are the top two. China's actually importing a bunch to Germany. Germany's installing them. China's making them. What's that do to the economic, the opportunity there? Within 3 years, China will likely be the world leader in renewable energy. Great opportunity for China. What are we missing here? I was in China in April, and I looked out. You stand there on these walls or whatever, you look out, and every single building has solar thermal. Every single one. You literally see hundreds. And I talked to some people there, and they said, well, it's just cheaper to do it, to put it in. 65% of solar thermal global capacity is in China. 40 million solar thermal systems in place right now. Ken Coburn shared with me the great quote that I love, which is a Wayne Gretzky quote, "Skate to where the puck is going to be." And it makes a lot of sense. And when I look at our country, obviously all of us right now are saying, what is going on with our country? But, what a huge opportunity for green jobs that we are missing out right now. And you can read just tons and tons of that. So why do our politicians lack political will? I'm just going to be very brief here. Frankly, those of you in academia have probably know more than I do about this issue. I don't spend my days thinking about this. I'm just trying to figure out how to change how we do business. But it's very clear to me, the other silent issue in the campaign is that there are very powerful financial interests, obviously, out there in the world. And until we get meaningful campaign finance reform, none of this. I mean, it's really an uphill battle. We've got the status quo of 150 years of this is how we do it. And it's really hard changing that. Also, you have to realize, I remember being here at UNH in the late 70s and hearing about this thing, acid rain, and they said it was going to take, 15 years of policy, to prove that it exists, get it, things, and I thought, 15 years? And it did take 15 years, or maybe 20 years. But we had very